The Oblivion Remake is now called the Oblivion Remaster, and a lot of information has been leaked courtesy of the Virtuos website, which people dug into and found a bunch of images regarding the Oblivion Remake. From there, things have spiraled and more info has come out, and very importantly, this just immediately gives credibility to a lot of the leakers that have been talking about this, including that very OG leaker, ex-employee of Virtuos, which also had a lot of other interesting things to say about Virtuos and their upcoming projects, which, don't worry, we'll have plenty of time to talk about those in the future. Also worth mentioning, it is coming to Xbox, PC, and PlayStation 5. So, good. Now, that doesn't mean we know everything, because this is still one of the most confusing projects, I think, in the history of video games at this point. What is this remaster? How much have things changed? Who actually made it? What was Bethesda's involvement in all of this? And we have some answers to some of those things and no answers for others. But hey, we're going to cover all of that. The game looks amazing, as you can see. And if you can't see, it's because I had to cut this part of the video out because somebody took down the video. I am incredibly excited, and I just love the idea of everybody getting together and just enjoying a classic all over again. It's just the feel-good vibes. But anyways, before we go on, hi, I'm Mug. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. It's really good to see you. You're looking fantastic. Really, not as fantastic as this Oblivion Remake looks, but really, really good. All right, high bar they're setting here. If you enjoy the video, hit the like button. Helps the video reach more people, helps the channel grow, all the usual stuff. Let's get into it. So let me start off with the big thing. This is called Oblivion Remaster, not Oblivion Remake. And despite that, people keep looking at it and reading the leaks of what has changed, and we're still not sure of what exactly the game is. Does it fall more on that remaster, just like a kind of graphical update with some tweaks, or is it more on the remake side of more ground up and changing more fundamental parts of the game? For as much as in these images we can see that the game looks noticeably different and much, much better, those details are not clear to us. The most important question of all has still not been answered, which is this game running on the Creation Engine, or is this game running exclusively on Unreal Engine 5? And honestly, it's still completely up in the air, and there's multiple configurations of this. Technically, this could still be Oblivion, as in the original Oblivion on that engine with a graphical overhaul on top. This could be Oblivion from the ground up rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5. This could be Oblivion rebuilt on the Creation Engine 2.0, the same one that runs Starfield, with the Unreal Engine 5 graphics wrapper on top. All of those have pros and cons, although I have been very publicly in favor of seeing this game hopefully all in Unreal Engine 5 from the ground up, because I think that's the most interesting possibility of them. And honestly, even though it says remaster on the tin, we really don't know. Now, one of the more interesting parts about this from the original leak way back when of that ex-Virtuos employee are the things that they said had been changed, which are that now there is a much more complex blocking system similar to Souls games, which I imagine has to do with like parries and hit stun. The stealth system has been reworked. The stamina system has been modified. The HUD has been changed. There is now feedback in combat, like hit reactions when you attack people, and the entire archery system has been overhauled. Now, I already said way back when we had that first leak that this doesn't really make too much sense to me. It feels like a very strange list of outliers here without having any consistent logic to pinpoint here. Those sounds like some pretty big changes to just the blocking and the stamina, but not the combat itself. So like how you actually use your weapons, how you equip them, how they move, their animations, their range. Obviously no mention of something like the magic system being different or being expanded and even crazier, or how spells in combat could work and things like that. No mentions of the map itself or the dungeons or the quest lines. Absolutely no mention of anything regarding voice actors or dialogue lines being changed, which, hey, a lot of the dialogue in Oblivion holds up, but let's be honest, the voice acting could be touched up, especially, you know, the amount of different actors working on the game None of that is covered here. So if we just took this as everything that's changing, it's kind of a very strange list of changes. And that is what makes me highly suspicious that this is the actual full list of changes, and probably more a list of things that they were actively working on when that ex-Virtuos employee was seeing it. Now, it still could be that these are the only things that are changing, and it would be weird, but hey, I guess we will find out soon enough. Now, once again, very strange to have this game that has been, floating around for a very long time, and now finally we get more concrete evidence on everything, and still we don't know so much of the information. There's still so much here that is still not really clear, and the game is coming out like next week. Now, the other very interesting thing here is that it's been confirmed that this game is a collaboration between Virtuos and Bethesda Rockville and Bethesda Dallas, which I'm not sure on Rockville, but Bethesda Dallas was created in 2018. It's one of the other support studios like Bethesda Austin, which worked on Fallout 76 and things like that. Basically, not the main Bethesda Game Studios studio, but they are listed as collaborating on this, implying that Bethesda actually had a pretty big part in the development of the Oblivion remake. Now, I don't particularly find that to be excellent news. I don't think many people have a very high opinion of Bethesda recently, but these are the newer satellite studios that have been doing other things, which I think we can understand as the main guys from Oblivion aren't really touching this project that much, which I think is better. I've said it many times, but if you're going to do a big thing like this for a game, I would much rather it be interesting and experimental and do new things and try new things with it, because the original game is still perfectly playable and right there. This does, however, dispel some of the more wild theories out there that I have talked about before as well, of the possibility of this being something where Bethesda was not involved. We know from people like Todd Howard that they're not into the idea of remaking or remastering games, but obviously Microsoft likes money and having games on Game Pass and all of these things, and sitting on these very valuable IPs and very valuable games and not doing anything with them could only go on for as long as Microsoft allowed it to, I guess. So there was this whole idea that maybe Microsoft had just taken Oblivion, taken the IP, which they own, and said, hey, Virtuos, make us a remake, make a remaster, make something out of this. But like, we can't just have it lying around. And that was done maybe with some ill will, some bad blood between Bethesda and Microsoft to some degree. Now, I don't think it can be that terrible, because obviously there's two studios that worked on this directly from Bethesda. So the complete picture isn't really there for us to know of if the Bethesda people that we know of, the main studio of Bethesda, what their thoughts are on this, or how much they approved it, or how much they thought it was a good idea. But at the very minimum, they were very directly involved in this, and there has been not just supervision, which I think everybody assumed would be the case, but direct involvement from Bethesda on this project. And all of this coming to Xbox, PC, and PS5 next week, probably, before the end of April. Seems pretty guaranteed. It felt pretty guaranteed before, and now that we have this like rock solid proof of it, even more so. Small important detail though, there is a premium edition. Not a big fan of those in games. I guess this one won't come with like early access of like play the game 3 days early, considering that it's supposed to be a shadow drop, but the premium edition does come with horse armor. Which is like simultaneously terrible and really fun. Now, in case it's not obvious, there's quite a lot riding on this remake. Not just the fact that it's a pretty big, classic, beloved game and all of that, but more the idea of Microsoft collaborating with Virtuos in this case, and how Bethesda has handled it and all the internals, because it is very important to remember that there was also a Fallout 3 remaster listed on the same original document that we saw many years ago during the Activision Blizzard court proceedings, and that was relatively close to the Oblivion remaster that was on it. So whether that is being done internally, whether that's another collaboration with another studio, whether that's something that also is happening with Virtuos, but we didn't know about it or the leaker didn't know about it, I think that's the least likely thing. I think that the more logical thing is that Microsoft looked for different studios in order to put those plans into motion and test different things out. But whatever happens with the Oblivion remaster is definitely going to inform what happens with stuff like that Fallout 3 remaster, and very possibly what happens with the future of Bethesda game studios and, their big games, stuff like Elder Scrolls 6. I love Oblivion. I think I probably love Fallout 3 just a tiny bit more. And I'm incredibly excited at the idea of that existing, whether it's coming, in the next 2 years or in 5 or whatever. But really the important part about all of this is if it is well received, if people like it, or if people don't, and some of the changes that they make and the support that they give it change that around, we can see a future where some of these properties are kind of opened up again. Fallout has its own story from the past, and of course we had Obsidian, who made Fallout New Vegas, but since then it really has felt like Bethesda Game Studios and their games are kind of dormant a lot of the time. It's been so long since Skyrim, and although Fallout 4 was more recent, it really wasn't what everybody wanted. And of course then there was Starfield. So the idea of these remasters, these remakes, and the possibility of other studios coming on, potentially doing projects within the Elder Scrolls or within Fallout, or doing projects collaborating with Bethesda, the idea that Bethesda themselves might even contemplate changing certain parts of how they work, even if that's stuff like the Unreal Engine 5 graphical overhaul on stuff, or making bigger changes to their engine, or just experimenting with other stuff. I think that's overall really exciting. I would love a world where we get to see, I don't know, Fallout Tactics come back. I know that people pretend the genre is dead, but Microsoft made Halo Wars. What's stopping them from making like a Fallout RTS or something? What's stopping us from getting different sorts of adventures within the realm of Tamriel? And I think that this could be a really interesting, very important turning point for all of the Bethesda adjacent things. And that's really, really exciting to me. Now, unless there's some big news that breaks around it or some big controversy before it comes out, I think it's safe for me to say that I won't really be talking about it much until I give my first impressions and I actually play the game. But one of the things I wanted to say, having covered this from the very start, digging into it, doing a lot of my own independent research on stuff and digging around and asking questions. Firstly, if you've followed along with this insane saga around the Oblivion remake, now called remaster, and we're still not sure, thank you. Thank you so much for sticking by. I hope it was informative, entertaining, just good in general. But more important than that, please go out there and enjoy this. It doesn't matter if it ends up being terrible or if it's really good or whatever happens with it. And I'm just gonna kind of warn you that this is gonna be a little bit sappy, so just take it as you will. It was only until like very recently, until I had to like file certain paperwork that I accepted that I'm like a YouTuber, whatever that means. But so even less than that, I never considered myself like a Bethesda adjacent YouTuber at all. But the response from the community, the response from people who love Bethesda games, that I think all of us here just have a love and a passion for a lot of their projects, and for as critical as we can be, for as much friction there can be between us and the studio and what we want and the modding community and all of these things. I am so incredibly thankful to everybody in that community. It is a group of people that are just really happy to play games that they really enjoy and want them to be the best they can be. And I really hope that we get something amazing in this remake. I know my hopes are high, and that is always very dangerous. But I think that for many of us, myself included, Oblivion is almost a very important part of our love for video games and our history with the medium. So this is a really big deal to some of us, and I honestly can't wait to play it, talk about it, share thoughts, and see what everybody else has to say. Thank you. Be excited. I can't wait. I've been Mug. Thank you for watching, and a very extra special thank to the members of The Wall be they patrons or members here on YouTube who support everything that I do every single day. And remember, go out there, enjoy some great video games, and I will see you again very soon.